All right. Looks like Mark is hopping on. Mark's here. And for everyone on the line, we are recording this as per our other North of Falcon calls that we've done. I think the game plan for this late morning, early afternoon, we're just going to kind of work our way north to south, cruise through the areas, go over some of the negotiations we've had thus far. And maybe I'll leave it to Mark and or Kyle to kind of give the 10,000 foot overall North of Falcon summary of where we are. I don't know if we want to start there, or do you folks on the call want to just kind of get into the nitty gritty of going through the areas and where we are from a commercial sector standpoint?
I think it would be good to get a big picture view, kind of where we're at.
I'd be happy to try to start, and then if Kyle wants to jump in or fill in the gaps, I'd encourage him to do so. So I guess maybe let's back up to the beginning. We all knew we had some pretty significant conservation constraints this year, especially for chum. To be honest, I think when we settled early talking about kind of our fisheries ideas and plans for this year, I think from a co-manager perspective, it turned the attention on each other. There's been a whole lot of intertribal disputes related to chum this year. Oftentimes those disputes are kept quiet from us, where we don't see that kind of stuff, but it's been front and center for a number of meetings this year, intertribal. So I think there's that aspect going on. We've also seen some pretty significant roadblocks to try to get to an ocean fisheries package. Coastal tribes have had a really difficult time communicating and coming together on an ocean package. That's had downstream effects on us in Puget Sound, trying to work through all the issues we have on an annual basis through various watersheds. A couple of other kind of things that popped up within Puget Sound this year that have contributed to that. There's some ongoing intertribal disputes on the Skagit River. Plus the spring and summer fall stock being below their low abundance thresholds has contributed to that. Not to mention 1 million pink salmon due to come back to the Skagit River that everybody's trying to access a little bit. So it's kind of tough in that aspect. The other kind of there's also been on the rec side, there's been some difficult conversations with South Sound tribes about rec fisheries, especially in that June period, and then winter fisheries again this year has been a difficult topic. The state was able to gain agreement on a couple of extra months of winter fishing this year, but not much has changed from our overall rec fishing package from last year. And I think big picture on the commercial side, Quasi and team have done a really good job of kind of trying to tick through all the things that we needed to get through. We have agreement on a 7.7A schedule. You know, we did talk through with you folks in earlier conversations about our limitations on an area 8 and 8A pink opportunity because of those other species concerns that I talked about. So I don't know if I left anything off, Kyle, that you wanted to touch on, or I noticed Ron joined us too. I was essentially, Ron, just going through a big picture of this year. So
I think you hit a lot of the important stuff, Mark. The other odd thing is that the council's scheduled to take final action today on ocean salmon seasons. It's probably not going to happen tomorrow. The coastal coho, Queets coho in particular issue has caused a lot of problems trying to get to seasons. The tribes still don't have an agreement amongst themselves on what to propose for a treaty troll. Ocean Fishery, hopefully they're meeting right now and we'll get back to us soon. But I think there's been a lot of waiting to see how things fall out in the ocean, because even small changes to individual stocks out there have effects that ripple into Puget Sound, Columbia River. So anxiously awaiting the tribes to get back to us with something so we can figure out how to make the ocean pieces fit with everything else. And it's going to be a frantic 24 hours or so to do that.
Yeah, so just to follow up on that, Kyle, so, just on the PFMC agenda, it has final action on salmon management. It looks like tomorrow afternoon. So I assume that's the council would like to, kind of have the state and tribes come forward with something so that they can bless it tomorrow afternoon. Is there what happens if there's not agreement until, tomorrow afternoon? I see that there is at least a placeholder for another day for the council on Friday. Is that, maybe
So
just talk a little bit about that.
I really lose track of days during North of Falcon and PFMC, but I think you may be off by a day. Final action on the agenda was for Wednesday afternoon. We're likely pushing that into Thursday morning already. So tomorrow is the last day of the council meeting, and we have to be to final action by the time the council adjourns tomorrow.
Sorry. Yeah, I got my dicks mixed up. Okay, thanks.
Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, so quick question on the ocean. Are they looking at option 2 or less on the harvest of Chinook stocks?
So right now, the last thing the council looked at had one non-treaty ocean fishing package for actually for all 3 states, not just North of Falcon. It had 4 alternatives for treaty troll options, 3 put forward by the Quinault Treaty Area tribes. 1 was no fishing, and then there were 2 levels higher than that. There was another option from the Macaw tribe that was slightly higher than the Quinault alternatives, actually quite a bit higher for coho. So there's still sort of 4 treaty options out there, and that's what we're waiting. We're waiting for the treaty troll tribes to meet and see if they can come to one package to bring forward. If so, figure out how does that fit with the non-treaty ocean fisheries. There's a chance they might not get to resolution, and then it's anybody's guess what happens on the council floor to move something forward. So we don't know exactly where the tribes are, hoping to find out something within the next hour or so we can move forward.
Yeah, okay, so so what I saw was the harvest of 60,000 Chinook salmon on the coast. So I was just wondering if they're still going to take that many kings. That was my question. I guess it depends on where the tribes are at with their troll fishery, I take it.
So what's in the current North of Falcon non-treaty package is 59,000 Chinook, and yes, where it lands depends on where treaty troll comes back and how we work things out from there.
All right, so then that's going to have a pretty big effect on area 7A harvest of Chinook as they start moving into our watersheds here, I take it.
I don't know that it will have that much of an effect. It's already in everything that's being modeled. The ocean fisheries tend to hit, particularly the non-treaty fisheries tend to hit Columbia River fish at a much higher rate than Puget Sound stocks, but everything that we expect is being modeled in the range of treaty alternatives combined with the non-treaty package that's being modeled now.
Okay, thanks, Kyle.
Any other big picture questions before Quasi starts ticking through Puget Sound stuff? Awesome. Go for it, Quasi.
Cool. Well, Shannon, you kind of led us where we'll start with our 7-7A schedule. So Ben Starkhouse, counterpart with Lummi Nation. It would be the schedule. I'll go ahead and I'll just talk through it. I won't share screen. Very similar to previous years. The initial proposal that they had for our chum fishing plan for 7-7A had 3 days per seine gillnet prior to the in-season check-in that we do. So week 42 this week starts at Sunday, October 10th. So as you know, tribes are going to per seine gillnet continuously. That's their plan. We have our reef net for Area 7 starting October 10th and going continuously on our 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. schedule. For non-treaty per seine and gillnet, we're going to come in Sunday, Monday, so the 10th and the 11th. We'll have 2 days off, so that's Tuesday, Wednesday. We'll come back in Thursday and Friday. So this is a little odd because we are pushing right up close to the weekend. But I wanted to ensure that we got 4 days on the water, like we had in, 5 of the last 10 previous years, if not more than that, prior to that check-in. So what it does is forces us on the state side to have our Lummi check-in on Saturday the 16th, which is totally fine. I see nothing wrong with that, knowing that we can at least get 4 days on the water prior to that first run check-in. So if after Saturday, October 16th, we deem that there are greater than 29,000, we would still have a 2 off and come in Tuesday, October 19th. So even though, week 43, we would traditionally switch our 7-7A schedule to a Sunday through Saturday fishery. We would treat this almost as, it seems like the weeks are really early this year, or the management weeks. So we would treat this as a continuation of the chum management period before we go 7 days on. So it'd be coming back on the water Tuesday the 19th. So 7 reef net, we still have our 500 coho cap. That didn't get fiddled with this year. Any questions on 7-7A schedule? Shannon,
Yeah.
I see. Yep.
Yeah, I got my hand up there. So, but the chum seasons for the gill nets and the purse seine is predicated on a million expectation, a million first. So, I'm glad you scheduled the time in there. That's good. But I guess we need to see what the Canadians are catching up in Johnstone Straits and further up the coast, I guess, eh?
Correct. Yeah, this is all predicated that we're going to be on the water in the first place.
Yeah. So then, did I see that we're going first this year with the tribes, or they go first?
It isn't. Everyone go first. We would be fishing in common.
Okay, good.
Yep. So the way this week panned out, initially, the initial proposal had in-season check-in on Friday the 15th with only 3 days of non-treaty per seine and gillnet prior to that check-in. The tribes wanted back-to-back 2 days of non-treaty action. So I pushed John Lummi pretty hard to say, let's move this and get our traditional 4 days prior to the check-in. Fred, I see your hands up. Fred, do you have a question?
Yeah,
There you go.
Yep. Sorry about that. The phone's ringing. What I was wondering about is that, just 1 second. Okay. On that Tuesday start of the following week,
Yes.
that the second week, right?
Yep. That would be week 43. Yeah.
Okay, so that's Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday,
Saturday.
Saturday, and then
Yep.
and then it goes on.
And
from-
then we hit our Sunday to Saturday, Sunday to Saturday.
Okay, that's
Yeah. So all we're doing is just moving that Sunday to a Tuesday.
I get it.
Yep.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, no problem. That's the screen. All right. Okay, let's move on. Mickey, did you want to speak to any Fraser stuff? I mean, nothing outside of what we've already told you has changed. You know, we still are going to be managing preseason to targets that open the fishery. And other than that, we'll just wait to see closer we get to kind of our July, August timeframe.
Right. No further updates at this time.
Great. All right, 7B and 7C. We are not done yet. We wanted to touch base with you guys prior to meeting back up with Lummi Nooksack. And yeah, so what we have going on here is, I guess, two things kind of got brought up. Our low forecasted chum got brought up. I believe we are expecting roughly 27,000. Let me open our pink chum sockeye forecast real quick. As I'm looking for it, I'll continue to talk. We're expecting a similar forecast to last year. We did also know that last year presented some challenges for the gillnet fleet, predominantly during that chum management period of having a Tuesday, Wednesday schedule. And so that was a Tuesday schedule, Tuesday 7 a.m. to Wednesday at 4 p.m. So a little over, it was 33 hours of time on the water. But what we also saw was kind of unusually stormy conditions during late October and early November. So with that in mind, we initially, I think on our last check-in, we said we're going to go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, which really would have been a Tuesday 7 a.m. to Thursday at 4 p.m., which represented about 54 hours of fishing on the water. Lummi is proposing a nearly identical schedule to last year, so they didn't take too kindly to our increase in hours, even though our angle of attack was we're not necessarily increasing effort or catch, we're increasing safe time on the water to allow the gillnet fleet to get out there without having weather days or getting blown off the water the only time they're able to fish. So what we're proposing is an optional Thursday fishery if Tuesday or Wednesday are looking like it's not feasible or safe for the gillnet fleets in 7B to get on the water. Lummi and Nooksack both seem okay with that schedule. We agreed to weekly check-ins. So we're not going to necessarily be chasing catch back and forth. It's just going to be more fleet management styled check-ins. The tougher angle on this is we know traditionally the tribes do outfish us in that fishery. So the pullback really was, well, you know, we're not in the river. We're only in 7B. We're only in the portion of 7B that's not the Whatcom Creek zone. So we're already restricting. We do know it is a really small fleet up there, I think, and Dave can correct me when he did his kind of fleet analysis on it. It looked like we maybe had 12 different licenses participate all of last year's chum management period. So it's just, you know, a small group of you guys going out a couple times that entire season. But with conversations, we felt that the initial 3-day to the tribes was dead on arrival. So we're trying to look at this kind of alternative soft 3-day, if you will, option, you know, again, thinking outside of the box. And then again, also realizing that our forecast is pretty crappy for that, for 2021.
Well, the other thing I want to bring up, Quasi, and something that we've been thinking about is with the other limited chum opportunities in Puget Sound, is this going to have a target on it for guys wanting some extra opportunity where they don't have it elsewhere? So I think that's where also we're wanting to be a little bit cautious, being able to assess that in season if we're getting, you know, bigger participation than what we expect.
Excellent. Yes. And that was brought up by the co-managers, to which we, you know, our answer is we're not 100%, but we don't think there's going to be a large effort shift, but obviously we don't have control over that if there was an effort shift north. Shannon, your hand's up.
Yeah, so what the guys were proposing here was just a 12-hour fishery for 3 days, not the straight on through, which would represent 36 hours. So 3 7s are 21. So we're actually giving up some time here. Not to mention we're not fishing in Whatcom Creek zone. You guys got to be tougher with the lummies. When it's blowing 30 to 35 miles an hour in Bellingham, it's unfishable. It's barely fishable at 25 miles an hour. Those guys up in the river or inside the bar are pretty well protected from, they can fish. Let's just put it that way when we can't. And the other caveat I've got on this, I've lost 7 friends in Bellingham Bay to drowning. Okay, you remind the lummies of that. And so 7 to 7 is very reasonable. We start at 7, we're off at 7, 3 days. And the management starts the 24th, right? That the actual abbreviated season, is that correct? The 24th?
It's 31st.
31st of October. Okay.
Yep.
All right. So
you're correct. Chum management does start the 24th. However, the 24th, we run the 7 or the 24-hour fishery all the way to the end of. All
right.
Yep. And it's week 45 this year.
Yeah. So you need to remind them that we've lost 7 people here on Bellingham Bay, probably more, that are salmon fishermen. And I know that they've lost a couple guys themselves. So, you know, enough of the politics. Let's just get fishing. Thank you.
So Shannon, for my sake, I'm just going to recap. You kind of speaking local knowledge for Bellingham Bay, are proposing 3 12-hour openings, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yeah, so that we're given that nighttime fishery away. There are a couple of guys that do fish at night. It's really not all that productive because you're giving most of the fish away to the seals and the sea lions in the evening because you can't manage your net during the dark. The morning fishery to the 7 and we're off the water. That way we can deliver it. We can deliver our fish at 6 a.m. in the morning. And then be back on the grounds in an hour to set the gear. So that's kind of what the guys would like to see. So let's just keep talking to them. You know, they know that they can fish up in the river, up behind the bar, along Lummi Shore. They know. You know, and they know that we're getting our asses kicked out there in Bellingham Bay. So I just want you to let them know that we know what's going on. Okay, thank you.
All right. So I'll switch to our Chinook management period. Let me take my notes out because I haven't written this on our schedule yet. So starting earlier this time frame, for weeks 34 through 37. So that's our Chinook / coho time period that we're doing this year. We have had a request to change our gill net schedule to reflect the in-season crab woes from our tribal counterparts last year. So the request, or I should say, as it stands right now, our schedule is a Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So 4 days on the water, while 7B/7C are open. You guys are aware our 7C fisheries match 7B weeks 36 through 37. Did I say that right? Ours, yeah, 7B, 7C weeks 36 to 37. And so the request is that we fish gillnet Sunday, Monday, and then have Wednesday off, and then come back on the water for Thursday, Friday. That would allow the tribes to conduct the majority of their crab fishing on that Wednesday. So they laid out their argument yesterday during conversations, saying that, you know, again, it's a gear conflict, that their tribal crab does not fish well with non-tribal gillnet in the area. So last year, you know, we had the big issue of the tribes not, or shifting their crab fishery that shifted us off the water, but then not having that crab fishery, and then saying it was a huge gear conflict. So I guess, yeah, what are thoughts from the crowd on their proposed shifts? So it'd be night fisheries Sunday, Monday, and then time off the water and coming back on the water Thursday, Friday. Yeah, you go ahead, Shannon.
You're muted, Shannon.
I'm having trouble with my buttons here. I don't know how to use them too well. So am I understanding that they want to crab again during the summer in Samish? Is that what I'm hearing, or did I not hear that right?
Yes, this would be their, let's see, what time frame would that be? August fishery.
So every week they want to fish crab in the middle of our fishery. Is that right?
That's what they are saying.
Oh, man, that is absolutely, and we got to be off the water for them. Okay, so which tribe is it? Is it Skagits again?
Mark, can you refresh my memory? It's Upper Skagit, who only has UNA and 7C.
So Shannon, at this point, the options are a split fishery, same amount of days, or 4 days in a row. I mean, that's really what we're looking at this point. It shifts days, but you're still getting the same amount of days.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what to think about that, but I guess it all depends on whether they crab or not. I mean, the Lummies told them that they were out of their minds last year. It was all soft crab. I don't understand why they would want to come back down here and do it again. And there was only one boat, and then I didn't see him launch pots, nor did I see him bring pots back out of the water. But I did see he had a lot of crab line in his wheel. So I just yeah, well, I guess we'll see how it goes. It could be very disruptive if they don't pick their traps up They're fishing 1-day crab, is that right?
Tuesday, Wednesday, I thought.
Sunday, Monday, and then they get to fish Tuesday, Wednesday. And, well, you know for darn sure that the lummies are not gonna, get off the water, so, on their salmon fishery, that's what.
So that's where, insider knowledge helps us.
Yeah.
Is what Lummy tells us is that they hang up their nets and pick up their pots, essentially, that their salmon fishing effort drops in 7C when crab is open. We've heard the opposite from you guys in the fleet. What we saw last year too was that not all fishermen switched over to crab, and but unfortunately we don't have, this is a new one for us, is how do we manage 2 species at once when they're playing by a complete different set of crab regulations. We have talked to, I'm sure you guys remember Aaron Defoe. We've kind of brought him into the mold just to pick his brain on how we'd go about having multi-species conversations.
Bob
Yeah,
has
well,
his hand.
Yeah.
I see.
No, I just don't understand why they want to fish on soft crab. I don't think the department would allow them to do that, nor the Lummi Nation, but, okay, well, I guess we'll see what happens. I'm opposed to it. Thank
Okay.
you.
Got it noted. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Quasi, so I don't know if you were gonna get to 7B or not. That's kind of where my question is, so.
For
7B Chinook management, PSVOA we put in a request for another per seine day. I don't know if you've talked amongst yourself and the tribes about that.
So yeah, we've had internal conversations about adding that per seine day, and I think where we landed on internally was better utilization of the 1 day. Since we just have such historic low effort, it's really tough for us to justify. No, I don't want to say justify, but to understand what adding a second day of effort could do.
Well, I mean, I guess the way to evaluate it would be to do it 1 year. And I don't know how you can evaluate it if you don't, at least try it.
Mark, do you have any thoughts on that one?
Well, unfortunately, I haven't been paying close attention to Bellingham Bay or what the expected run sizes are. I know in the recent past, we've had some trouble with the salmon stock getting our brood stock goals. Some of that's been hatchery related. Some of that's just been survival related. So unfortunately, I don't have a whole lot of thoughts on it because I haven't really thought about it too heavily. I think.
So I mean, I guess my thought is, Quasi and Mark and others, is that, given the restrictions, and I know we're going to get to Puget Sound pinks here, but given the poor Fraser outlook, sockeye pink, maybe I mean, like I say, we'll talk a little bit more about pinks in Skagit and Everett, I assume, here in a little bit, but just the thought is that was just to and then couple that with, given such small catches, would be to what harm would it do to expand at least 1 day, 1 week, a per seine opportunity in 7B, which is self-limiting, right? As I think I tried to say last time we met, that fishery is self-limiting because basically there are only 2 places in Bellingham Bay where you can set.
Yeah, Skip Anderson and I did have a pretty good conversation about that.
Yeah. So any event, I guess I would respectfully request that that, you kind of continue those internal conversations, and at least if there is a decision not to do it, what, let people know what you would need to see in order to increase that at least for one day for one of the Chinook management weeks and another per se day.
Okay. Well, I do appreciate the added detail with if it's only happening one of the weeks. Let us talk internally this afternoon on it. I mean, we're pedal to the metal until we grind this thing out. You're muted.
Completely understand. You got a lot of things up in the air,
but yes, I know, I do appreciate that added info. That could be a selling point. So let's talk about it, and we'll keep going through. So I think that covers it for 7BC with us. Yep, the crab issue. Shannon, your objection is noted. I will pass this on. We'll try and get our regional with the Lummi Nooksack folks. Gosh, as soon as we can within this meeting is over, and to see where we land. So moving on to 8 and 8A. So we ended up pulling both gillnet and purseine pink fisheries for both areas. Let's see, do I have the last model up here? It was looking like we just could not get the non-treaty fleet on the water with the level of impacts that were, or the percentage of the ER that total state was still incurring on Skagit, summer, fall, Chinook. And so I believe we even pulled our recreational pink fishing for that area, if I'm correct. Nope.
We reduced the amount of time,
okay.
And we significantly reduced our in-river fishery as well.
So that effectively closes areas 8 and 8A. 8D has not been open.
Yeah, maybe if I can
question?
just jump in
Sure,
here.
sure.
Sorry about that. So I think, we talked about amongst ourselves, instead of, that full kind of traditional schedule would be to, maybe reduce that schedule in terms of number of weeks or openings or both. And I just want to know if that was explored, and if so, were there still not enough impacts to allow for at least, a reduced scale commercial pink fishery in 8 and 8A?
So on the technical side, yes, it was explored. I sent to Derek and Dan, our modelers, 3 variations, pretty much starting at limited participation with these amount of days and whittling it back to, I think, even a single week. And the modeler's response was, it's little, but it's not zero. And where we are with summer, fall Skagits, it could be a policy toss-up.
Okay, so the constraining stock were summer, fall, Skagit,
Chinook. Yep.
What about and not and so that's kind of the weak link right there. That's the kind of the and if you can't meet conservation there, then Stilly, pink, and all this other Snohomish, coho, that all kind of you don't even get there because of Skagit, summer and fall Chinook. Do I understand that to be correct then?
So Bob, I'm going to jump in here because I think what we're facing this year is a mix of what we always deal with in these marine mixed stock areas, right? We have healthy populations mixing with really critical populations. That summer fall stock was below its low abundance threshold for this year, so it's in critical status, and we've been really we've had some really difficult conversations with the Skagit this year where they're, no, granted, they still have some commercial opportunity in river, but they're cutting a lot of fisheries to try to meet the conservation constraints on that summer fall stock. I think, let's talk about realities here. As Lorraine Loomis is cutting CNS fisheries, if we would propose even a limited commercial fishery out in front of the Skagit this year, I'm projecting, because we didn't offer it, but I'm projecting that would be met very unfavorably from Lorraine's point of view, that we would be putting a commercial fishery out in front of a time period where those fish are returning and we would have an impact.
And that, so that, but that, does that apply to 8A then too?
Well, but see, I guess where I was gonna move down there too, Bob.
Yeah.
It's this balancing act we find ourselves in across multiple species, and it's not just a Chinook here or a coho there, or even a below escapement pink run in the Stillaguamish. I mean, it's all of them together. We're looking at all of our impacts on all of the stocks collectively as we're trying to craft a fisheries package. We've been getting beaten up on the rec side of the ledger, looking at that kind of 8A area and how much, we've got about a month footprint for mark selective coho out front, and a mark selective in the river for pinks and hatchery coho for a few weeks. And they're looking, if you look at those coho model runs in relation to our impacts versus Tulalip's impacts, they're way out of balance. But then if you look at the Chinook side of the ledger on the Skycomish summer falls, it's exactly the other way, right? Where we're taking 75-80% of that stock. So we find ourselves in this place where we're trying to balance all of the species all at once in all the fisheries, and trying to maximize our opportunities where we think we can.
So there is going to be directed recreational harvest on pinks in Skagit and Everett Bay, right?
Yes.
Okay. So, and that's kind of, and that you're using and the reason why you're allowing recreational and not commercial is the North of Falcon policy, or?
So
Because
I think it's two different
respectfully-
things in two different areas, Bob.
Yeah, but I think that, I mean, I guess it's hard. We don't know, we can't see the numbers and what the impacts look like. I mean, relatively speaking, but, hey, Mark, I get it, there's a lot of, this weak stock management in the marine area. I get it. But I think, it's a little bit, and personally, I think it's not consistent with the North of Falcon policy, where you use, impacts to allow for a recreational pink fishery, Chinook and coho impacts, but you use those impacts solely in the recreational fishery and not in the commercial fishery. I disagree with that. I don't know the relative impacts, what they are. And until I get that information, I really can't have a meaningful conversation or back and forth with you guys on that, so, but, the premise, I think, that you guys have been operating under, where you're going to give coho and Chinook impacts to the rec to allow for a pink fishery for rec only, I disagree with that. And, we can take it up to the commission, but I don't want to go there. I think we need to look at kind of what the actual scale of impacts are, and relative to recreational, and what would have been taken in a reduced commercial pink opportunity. So I'll just leave it there for now.
Go ahead, Quasi.
I'll still go numerically. So Area 9A, continued conversations with Port Gamble on those silly bubble closures. We at least got 2 of them rescinded. The one that's in play right now are the 2 southern ones. It's Raya 0345, which they call, or 54, which they call Martha's Creek. And Port Gamble Creek, which is the furthest south one. There was some pretty productive conversations with Port Gamble, Scollum's, Bios, and it sounds like other folks are in agreement on it, with not necessarily an agreed to continuation of monitoring, but watching the fleet and how they actually use those closure areas. So I'm still hoping that we can get the 3 bubbles, except for the deepest south one, closed. As you guys are familiar, this is essentially a kill fishery. It's going to be coho returning to the Port Gamble net pen with nowhere to go on any of those dead end streams that just dewater during the summer. So we should hopefully have an end of that conversation this afternoon. South Sound 10 and 11. Obviously a really tough spot for us this year. We did retain our pink opportunity in the limited participation pink fishery for Area 10. We have that right now scheduled as gill nets going in Monday and Wednesday, and Thursday, or excuse me, Monday and Wednesday, and purseine for Tuesday and Thursday, occurring weeks 34 through 36. Questions on our pink 10 fishery? I think it was 2017 was the last time we had it in the books with very limited participation. I think it was only 2 boats attempted. But with this year, it gives us access to pinks returning to Duwamish Green.
Thank you for that.
Moving down to chum, the way we listened to you guys and we put dates in the schedule. However, as you guys know, we're not attempting to go in week 42. This whole entire South Sound would be driving on whatever the Apple Cove boat in season can produce model wise in any form of an ISU. And if it were to happen, then we have to figure out a way to get that fishery done smartly. So the schedule that we have right now is Monday purseine, and then a Tuesday, Thursday gillnet for week 43. I did throw out dates or in schedules for 44 and 45 just to fill in those gaps, you know, assuming complete best case scenario, and our forecast methodology is way worse than we ever thought it was, and there's a lot of chum coming back, just so we don't have a bunch of zeros on there. But the overall likelihood, as you guys have heard, is, you know, anything in 44 and 45 is a very slim chance. Moving on to Hood Canal. I'll start with the beach seine. It is a Tuesday, Thursday fishery, with our Tuesdays being predicated on enough fish to trigger that second day. Looks like Skokomish is in agreement with us attempting to do some egg take recovery fishing on select dates. We have also agreed to have weekly check-ins with them. So we don't want to, you know, pre-season figure out those. We'll get those dates on the books as far as what tides we think would work the best for the beach seine fishery to come in and do any egg take, egg goal, whatever you want to call it, fishing. But as we have right now, it's I have on here weeks 30 through 36. Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. I do believe Skokomish was okay with us starting 1 week earlier, since we were on a 1-1-1 schedule. until I'd have to go find that last email, but I want to say that was correct.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about that early part. We're talking about the beach seine, right? Sorry, I was
Yes,
trying to answer
beach
a text
seine.
message.
Yep, beach seine.
So we had talked about that early part being pink directed.
Yes.
And so yeah, they were fine with that.
All right. So I'll go ahead and get ahead of any questions. So the quota for the beach seine fishery, that was something that came up. We did receive your guys' emails on that. I am optimistic. So in adjusting to a 1-1-1 schedule, knowing that there could be opportunity in season to adjust to our 2 days a week, on the modeling side of things as well, we're not going to put in how do you account for the limited effort. Easiest way was just to cut the quota and the total quota in half. I think there could be relative room. Honestly, if we are getting a second day turned on, there must be a signal that there's going to be, either the hatchery is going to be fine, egg take goal wise. And so that, to me would say there's probably more fish there. So I'm assuming, as in previous years, we could have some flexibility in adjusting that quota upwards, especially with the agreed to weekly check-ins that we're going to be doing with Skokomish. Moving later in the season, our chum fishery. This is where we'd love to have discussion with you guys. So what we have in the books right now are a purse seine start that Monday. The purse seine fishery would be a limited hour fishery. And then we would go into a Tuesday, Thursday gillnet schedule, and that's weeks 43. So the limited hours would be a 6-hour fishery, and we haven't landed on when that would occur. If it's traditional start times or what, that's something we would want to discuss with y'all. But the other discussion is, and this was brought up with our co-managers, having purse seine come in that early in week 43, that Monday, is before the first date or before the dates used in the ISU. So it essentially throws out the ISU for this year if we have purse seine come in that early for that limited opening. What throwing out an ISU does is lock us into a preseason forecast. Even if that preseason forecast is low, if we're lowballing it and chum come back and more than the 80-ish thousand that's forecasted. Co-managers don't necessarily want that. They want an ability to adjust potentially so they can justify continuing fishing. As we kind of know of Skoke, is that going to stop Skokomish from keeping fishing? Potentially, it won't. The date we would have to move the purse seine to Wednesday or later of week 43 to have that date land within the ISU early window. And that would then allow us to adjust the run north or south, up or down. So thoughts, questions on that? And I should also say, if we switch the purse seine day later in the week, that would then be a quote unquote full fleet, full hour, an unrestricted day fishery. It would, you guys would say goodbye to your, gentleman's handshake on a first start. We would still have gill nets going in most likely, before that Wednesday. I'm assuming folks would want Wednesday to be the purse seine day, that the minimum date for the model. So it'd probably be a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, purse seine bracketed by 2 gill net days.
I see Fred has his hand up, but I would like to have the seiners that are on board to chime in on that.
Yes. Me too. I'll get to Fred's question first. Fred.
I was just, you answered my question in just that, I was wondering if it mattered when the gill netters went compared to, you know, when the seiners go as far as the ISU is concerned. So you answered my question.
Okay. Per seiner's on the line. Bill, Tom.
Oh, it seems like it makes sense to we might as well fish where it'll affect the ISU. We'd want, and hopefully the run comes larger. So I'm not opposed to waiting to where it makes the sense to change the ISU.
Yeah, I'll agree with what Tom just said.
I mean, we have a small number of fish to catch. If it doesn't change, we're going to catch it anyway. So more than likely, obviously. So more importantly, my next question is what's going on in Area 9 outside the bridge? Have you been able to cut that 21-day straight fishery down somewhat?
So
I could go ahead, Mark.
well, and Quasi, maybe you've seen a fishery proposal above the bridge, but I have not.
Nope.
I've heard something about a modeling input, but I have not seen any tribal fishing proposal for Area 9. I know that's, I mean, let's be real here. That's a big point of contention with all the co-managers this year, especially with the other kind of Tulalip Suquamish who are basically cut out of pre-terminal fishing in 10-11, at least for right now. So I don't know what those tribal discussions have been like on Chum. But yeah, I haven't seen a fishing proposal from the tribes yet.
So turning back to the Chum in Area 12 and 12B, do you guys have the responses that you need to go forward on the when to start the per seine schedule?
I mean, I think from the 3 seiners on board, Bob, I'm lumping you into that group.
I will gladly defer to Tom and Bill on that one. So
they both said they'd come in on that Wednesday, the date that affects the ISU. So if that's the route that we think
I put myself on mute, but I think there you go. I think you've got the answer. So thank you for soliciting our input.
And you guys, I want to be 100% transparent. That does mean that gill nets, then we are foregoing for this year our traditional first start flip flop. We would try to have a gill net day earlier in the week.
Yeah, we'll settle up with Fred after. But yeah, no, good. Thanks.
Fred, your hand.
So you're looking at the gill nets probably going on Wednesday and Thursday of the first week, correct?
No, it'd be Tuesday, either Monday or Tuesday, and then either or Thursday.
Oh, I mean, Monday or to the seiner's point of view, it would probably be as well as we went, give them a day, between, if that would be fine with them, I guess. And then the next week, is there a scheduled fishing day for that? Is that scheduled to be like a seiner Monday, then just like it has been, then a? So
this is the first time we'll have to do adjusting to get the rotation back now that it is not a per seine first start. But yes, we did throw out days for the next week that then would have per seines coming in on the Tuesday and gill net fishing Monday, Wednesday. But now if per seines come in on Wednesday, the week before, we'll flip it back to our typical rotation style. If we can, if it's looking like that just does not work, which I don't see why it wouldn't, to me, it's time on the water for both gear groups supersedes who's starting first per week. That's my opinion from a tech point of view. I know you guys have your thoughts on it. So short answer, Fred, yes, there are dates scheduled. I'll just have to change them.
When you look at the numbers, are you looking at how many weeks are you looking to fish there if you were to just throw it out? Are you looking at 2 weeks there, 3 weeks there, or I guess with the ISU, it would matter to it, but is with what you have now, what are you kind of looking at?
Go, Mark.
Well, Fred, I mean, to me, all I have to do is look to last year and what last year was like, and then look to what the forecast is this year. I think we'd be foolish to think we're going to get more than 2 weeks unless the in-season update information tells us something different.
Right. Roger. I got one more question. Did you run by your limited participation proposal to the tribes? That did that stuff even, did you bring that stuff up to them, or did they come up with any ideas, or was that a no-go? Or
Well, we only talked to them about it in general terms. We never put anything or on paper or proposal in front of them that said, this is the direction we're going. So yes, we did talk to them about it, but they never received any specific proposal from us on a limited participation fishery.
I see. So we're pretty much full fleet on
Yep.
whatever we do then.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. And that seemed to be kind of in line with what we heard from all you guys, is that rather than trying to quote unquote stretch a season with a limited number of gear or limited time, the two means that we were looking at doing it, or that a trip limit is, let the fleet fish, and what we catch is what we catch. And hopefully the, fingers crossed that ISU produces for Hood Canal. So Shannon, I see your hand.
Yeah, did I click the right button here?
Yep.
Yeah, okay, so we're still managing in Hood Canal pre-season non-treaty harvest of 80,000 pieces in the canal. Is that correct?
Yep.
Correct.
Okay, so I guess we'll find out whether it's going to come in at that rate. Given what was caught last year by the Persane fleet on their 1 day in Hood Canal, they could take 80,000 pieces in 2 openings without the gill nets involved. So something we need to, something you need to be thinking about.
We are. I don't know if Dave's listening. Dave's done some pretty awesome modeling for catch anticipation, where him and myself and Mickey are kind of feeling pretty optimistic on what a full fleet could actually do, and be like, oh wow, 80,000 could actually give us some room, because we're incorporating our 2020 catch in there. The both fleets did pretty bad. I mean, I think this is a sign of the poor return last year. But when you have that much effort and that CPUE cranks way down, there is potential for us to have that 80,000 kind of get prolonged or stretched out throughout dates if it's just everyone scratching on, double digit sets, which is horrible to see, or, triple digit gillnet landings, also horrible to see. So Dave, did you want to speak to that at all on this call?
Sure. Yeah, I don't have the numbers in front of me at this second, but you can't catch what's not there. And on these lower returns, well, the Persane guys know, if you all crowd into Hood Canal, you have to sit and wait a while to set, so you get fewer sets in a day. I mean, the data we have shows fairly clearly, I think, that on these lower runs, you just catch fewer fish. I mean, do you remember what the 1 week total was last year, Quasi? It was pretty low for both.
For both, it was incredibly low. I want to say it was, I could pull it up here in a second. Below 30,000, I thought.
Yeah, I was gonna say mid-20s. So,
Mhm.
and at the current run size, it looks like with the current schedule, full purse seine and 2 days of gill net, we could take half of it in a day. Realistically, we might take, worst case scenario, 2/3, but that might pump up the ISU as well. So
Awesome. Yeah, thanks for that rundown.
yeah,
of-
just
of-
my 2 cents.
of the the behind the scenes and stuff that we've been looking at. So many different variations on how to analyze your guys' past catch to make sense of some form of predictive method, outside of an ISU model where we're getting that stuff in season. That's predicting run size. What we're looking at is how do individual purse seine and gill net boats predict a daily landing. There's so much variation. But yeah, Dave, myself, and Mickey have done some interesting tools, kind of thought outside the box to get at a better understanding. We're definitely excited for some of the work we've laid out for this, I guess, continued preseason as to how to better understand how both gear groups, fish in season, and use that catch data for continued management, especially when we have these historic low runs. And as you guys are aware, 2022, isn't looking that great at all because we're lumping in 2019's data. So we could be facing a similar situation, a year from now.
Quasi, Tom again.
Hey, Tom.
So are you going to move the gill nets to Monday, that first start week, then day off Tuesday, and we go on Wednesday?
That would be my
Yeah.
my go-to would be to
Yeah.
have that kind of backfill day, if you will. Just so we're not going net straight all the way through.
Yeah.
Okay.
Makes sense. Just to clarify. Okay.
Yeah. No, thank you for that clarification.
And then we start the following week.
Yes, week 44 would be scheduled as a purse seine first start.
Mhm.
Okay. 6D, I don't know, is anyone here representing any skiff gill netters? I mean, I could talk through it. We're not looking at any substantial changes. That's fishery that co-managers and us have just said, hey, it's doing well. And I guess the same one there is our 12A. The 12A beach seine is looking like we aren't going to budge or mess with the schedule. So that covers our scheduling. I would like to acknowledge this schedule has been a living, breathing beast. I know there was a request earlier in the week or later in last week, as of Kyle, these days are just a wash, to let it out. I thought that would actually be pretty irresponsible of myself to give you guys a draft that was literally changing daily. So don't think I didn't intend to blow anyone off, but this is morphing as we talk. And then of course we're going to have to tackle, our footnote issue. I guess once, printed version is out there, this is going to be a schedule of caveats all over the place. And I'm going to do my best to simplify these for this year to try to have some, pretty concise language on what we intend. So the homework assignment from this conversation that I'm giving myself, Dave, and Mickey, and those of us on the state here, obviously we have to wrap up conversations with Lummi Nooksack. Shannon, I hear your proposal of correct me, you intend for a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.?
Yeah,
7
correct. Yeah, that cuts our hours down from 36 to 21. But we got a 3-day option, and my problem with the Thursday scenario that you brought up is what happens if they don't answer the phone?
That's a good point.
You know,
So,
and that happens. They don't answer the phone on Wednesday. We don't go fishing. So who's running the show?
well, we would still put you guys on the water and then leave them a voicemail that said, hey, it was blowing.
Yeah.
We're fishing Thursday. Help me get to your 21 hours, because right now I see 36. What am I missing?
I'm sorry. Okay, so the original schedule was 36 hours of fishing. Is
Mhm.
that correct? 4 p.m.
Your original as in last year's? Your
Yeah,
7
well-
a.m. to Tuesday to 4 p.m. Wednesday was 33 hours.
33. Well, you know, I just think that the 3 days, the 3 daylight openings basically is a better harvest tool for the guys that fish here, and the tribes know what the weather issue's like, you know, so
So daytime hours, then we're looking at 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
yeah, right.
Okay.
And no
All right.
nighttime, 0 nighttime fishing. We're done at 7 p.m.
Okay, so
Yeah.
the things, and maybe this is me being naive, especially with my knowledge, you know, outside of fishing and the kind of commercial aspect of 7B. You don't have a concern over commercial traffic, wreck traffic that time with gill nets. You know, that's kind of what we've always assumed of, you know, having an evening fishery into the night saves nets, but that's us. You're the fisherman, you're the fleet. So
Yeah, well, you know, traffic is always an issue, but I think the biggest problem we have here in Bellingham Bay is the seal and sea lion predation. We can see the predation happening during the day and get to the fish, you know, in most cases, or hopefully before they get to them. At night, it's, you know, you can't see what's going on. And so the nighttime really is not that productive in Bellingham Bay.
Okay.
Too many pinnipeds. I mean, we get stellars coming here late in the fall. And if you ever had stellars on your net, it's a crazy deal. I've never seen such an animal so aggressive. So yeah, we don't understand why we can't, you know, we've gone from the 4 p.m. closure on Friday down to last year was a 2-week season, and actually basically it was a 2-day fishery because the fish didn't show, they don't show up in Bellingham Bay until, you know, about the 10th of November. And so that's the problem we're having is, you know, we basically had a 2-day season last year. And we're giving up the hatchery zone there for brood stock. And so the tribes need to understand that we're making some big sacrifices over here on our side of the bay. And so I'll just leave you with that. Okay.
Well, and I'll say they've heard it, you know, but hearing and listening, or however you want to use that phrase, are two different things. You know, in my talking with Ben, I've made that point consistently in the, you know, 3 to 4 phone calls we've had just over these last 2 weeks, that it's not that we are looking at, you know, doing our full fish. I mean, come on, our full fishery is 105 hours per week. So we've already are cutting back anywhere. We're any of the proposed schedules that we've kind of floated their way have been over a 50% decrease in our time on the water. And that doesn't even include the physical close of Whatcom Creek, you know, the closure zone. So he's we are relaying that message. Whether they want to listen to it is completely out of our hands. All we can do is continue to remind them that we take our conservation seriously, and here's our track record of doing that. We would like to see that, reflected favorably upon when we propose fisheries that are, very, very reasonable. So
the other thing that they need to be reminded of is that the Nooksacks are fishing above the Slater Road in river. So when the Lummies are not fishing, the Nooksacks
the
are.
Nooksack, yes.
So,
So,
I mean, come on.
so Shannon, so right now, their proposal, Nooksack River Fishery is open 12 a.m. to 9 a.m. in river above the bridge, and then Lummy is open daylight hours below the bridge.
Yeah, right. So,
Cool.
Okay, so then the only other question I have here, and I'll get off the horn, is the question of not picking up the phone with regard to our fishery, our chum fishery here in Bellingham Bay. And then did I get maybe I didn't hear it. Are we fishing 5-inch gear for cohos in Bellingham Bay a week earlier than normal? Bellingham
Yes.
Bay only? Yeah, okay.
Yep, we are returning to the 2017 schedule where it is a coho / Chinook management period that allows for that 5-inch gear type to go in.
Yeah, excellent. So then the only other thing I want to alert the department is that, that quill seine, beach seine fishery is underutilized. And I'm thinking, that there's quite a few permit holders of beach seines that aren't fishing in quill seine for coho. And, you guys need to know that. You see the effort there. And my thought here is that why don't you have another drawing for a quill seine? If those guys are gonna, target the big money Chinook salmon down at Hoodsport, then we're not getting our share up in quill seine, which is a federal hatchery, by the way. So I think you need to pull some more names out of the hat, or have another drawing on quill seine, or let's have a gillnet fishery in there. So thoughts on that?
Not sure we feel good enough about summer chum to throw gillnets in there yet, Shannon.
Well, when the chums show up, the cohos are gone. That's the point that, we're trying to, we've been trying to tell you that, but either way, it's an underutilized fishery, and it is a federal hatchery, and there's certain rules there that allows us to fish. So you need to consider some more fishers in that fishery.
Thanks, Shannon.
Yep, thanks.
Fred, I see your hand.
Yeah, I just wanted a little bit of a clarification on 12B and or 12B and 10 and 11. So when you were talking first about 10 and 11 in week 43, does that affect the ISU? I mean, so if we have a fishery in 10 and 11 there, does that time get changed from do the seiners start on Wednesday then also?
I think we go ahead and be smart and still mirror schedules with the idea that week 43 start for 10 and 11 is all predicated on Apple Cove test fishing and a northward move of that ISU. Because right now our share is nothing. we know that, our share at 47 or right around 50,000 got nothing from last year. It's going to take a significant jump in that ISU to get boats on the water.
Well, I guess what I'm getting at is like, if they were to go, if the seiners were to go fishing on Monday and then Wednesday in the canal, you would have full fleets in both spots.
That's why we would just do our traditional split. So,
Okay.
yep. So any on paper 10 and 11 schedule would mirror the Hood Canal schedule, just like we've done for as many years as I can remember being here. So,
All right. Okay.
all right. Are there any questions outstanding? Looks like we're coming up on 12:30 here.
Yeah, and appreciate the time today, guys, and your work up to this point. So, are you planning another check-in with us, or are you just gonna? I guess it would be. I guess my thought would be is that if there is, a significant change from anything that we've talked about today, and you need our input, would be to kind of let us know, and then we can have a quick call. But if the landscape isn't changing between now and when the the final agreement is reached, then I don't know. What are you guys thinking about? Kind of another touch in with us.
Did you have any thoughts, Quasi, before I talk?
No, the only outstanding one is going to be 7 BC. It's pretty much the only area that we have up in, I'm not going to say up in the air. What I've heard is that I think we have a pretty good schedule for the chum management period for B. We just proposed a daytime fishery for 3 days. It's only, I think that works. And then propose our continued schedule for around the crab, and they can move their crab fishery for us. I don't know. That's going to be an interesting conversation.
So, Bob, I guess how I would respond is, I think that's great. I think if we do need to touch base, it would likely be tomorrow as we try to get a final fisheries package in place. As you said, I don't think there's a whole lot of moving pieces on the commercial side that we need to kind of check off, other than the couple little things we talked about today. I don't anticipate that we're going to have to make any significant moves with any of our fisheries package that are proposed at this point.
Okay, appreciate that. And I think on the pink issue, Mark, you're going to go ahead and do what you want to do on that. And excuse me, I'm not saying you don't have valid reasons, but I think it would be useful to at some point to just kind of look at where the impacts were used in the recreational fishery, and see what those impacts were. And then, maybe we can have a conversation with the commission if we find ourselves in a similar situation in future years, where we're using coho and Chinook impacts for a recreational pink fishery and not for a commercial pink fishery. I think we need to tease that out. And so, and just, and it could be that the numbers are so small that even with the small allowable impacts, we couldn't have any directed commercial pink harvest in 8A. That could be, but we don't have the numbers now. So I think we want to look at that after this settled, and then maybe have some policy direction from the commission.
So here's what I'll commit to you, Bob, is after tomorrow, we'll put all those numbers together. We'll put them in a document, kind of present you with our rationale of how we ended up where we did. And if we need to tee up a discussion with the commission, then that's where we'll go.
Yeah, fair enough. Thank you.
All righty. Shannon's got his hand up, Quasi.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Shannon.
Yeah, one last question here on 10 and 11.
Sure.
Was the department proposing if there was only 50,000 pieces available for non-treaty harvest that we wouldn't be taking them? That's where we're going here? Or?
Nope.
No, okay.
So essentially, here's where we are with 10 and 11, Shannon. We have told you guys and we've told the tribes at this point, there is no non-treaty fishing in South Sound for chums. That's both recreationally and commercially. We have recreational fisheries that are firing off all through the fall, but it's going to be either chum non-retention in the marine area or those freshwater areas will not be open to chum retention. So that's our preseason position right now. Now, we just actually got some language this morning that I haven't even opened my email and looked at yet. South Sound tribes were putting together some loaf language that would go in that talks about kind of next steps, working on an ISU or working on the South Sound ISU to try to improve it and kind of what an in-season trigger might look like. So as we look over that document, we'll share any kind of decision points or anything that the department lands on with you guys. That's going to be over the next number of months before the fall. We'll make sure that you guys have a clear understanding of where the department is, what the department has agreed to, what those triggers are in season. We're just because we're not fishing in South Sound this year doesn't mean that we won't have weekly in-season calls with you guys. We'll still have those weekly calls, update you on the ISU, talk to you about the tribal discussions that have been having. So we'll still have those meetings through the fall, even if we're not fishing.
Yeah, that's good. So then there's the public input on the season. We'll be seeing that here one of these days soon, right?
So yeah, we've been taking your input through the North of Falcon process. When we file the rules package, the CR 102, you'll have a time period there to comment on those proposed rules for this year through the rulemaking process. And then we'll have a hearing sometime in June on those when we file the 103 and be able to take comment about those through that process as well. But we'll make sure we send that out to folks so you know when it's up on the web and you know when you can look at it and make comment.
Yeah, and then we'll have our straw schedule available at that time too, so for prior or whatever.
Yeah, I'm guessing, and Quasi, I don't want to put words in your mouth or work on your plate, but I'm guessing as we finish out this week and center on a final fishing package, Quasi will send you guys out just kind of an end of North of Falcon draft schedule.
Yep.
With all the areas combined, so you guys will know what we settled on before we publish a pamphlet.
Okay, thanks on that. Thanks for your time too.
Yep. Any other last questions or comments? Well, hey, thanks everybody for being on today. Thanks Quasi for checking off all those items. Really appreciate it. And really appreciate everybody's time and input here. Know it's a tough year for all the commercial fishing. So really appreciate everybody hanging in with us and we'll be in touch soon.
All right, talk to you guys.
Okay.
All right, thanks,
you.
guys.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Jack.